Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say a warm welcome to all of our local attendees and our global attendees. We have a number of individuals from around the world watching as well, so welcome. I'm Brian Medeiros, President and CEO of Coldwell Banker Bermuda Realty in Bermuda. And this is our third webinar. And we have been delivering these webinars, our newsletters, and updates to our community and market because we have been asked for more information about the Azores, which has been great. The last time we looked at our newsletter engagement, we have about 2,000 people who are actively engaged in wanting to learn more. So, and looking at our local population, that's quite a number. And our focus today is foreign investment incentives in the Azores. So, just some housekeeping very quickly. We are going to keep this to an hour. It is lunchtime here in Bermuda. There is at the bottom of your screen a Q&A tab. If you have questions, please feel free to just ask them using the tab. If we are unable to get to your questions directly, our marketing manager will consolidate them, and then we will get back to you via email to help. We are recording the session, just want to let you know. And on our webinar today, we have our marketing manager, Barney Hapgood, and he's going to close the presentation at the end of the hour. We have Richard Ambrosio, who wears many, many hats, and I'm not even going to share how many hats Richard wears, but he is an active promoter of the Azores culturally through sports, education, and business. So Richard, thanks again for joining. And a very warm welcome to Catarina Gaspar. Catarina very graciously spent some time with a small Bermudian contingency who were in the Azores in November last year. We call it on a cultural and economic exploration. And we spent some time with her just specifically focusing on the investment incentives that the Azores offers. And she very kindly put her hand up, thank you, and agreed to join us today and to share some information. So welcome all, and I'd like to turn it over to Richard. Richard.
Thank you, Brian, for your kind words, and thanks again to Catarina for making herself available. I will introduce her. Our special guest, Miss Catarina Gaspar, is an economist of 42 years in age, married with 2 beautiful children. She started working in foreign investment as a project manager at the Investment Promotion Agency in 2007. In 2013, she started working as a project manager at the Azores Business Development Society, always in the Department of Foreign Investment. In 2021, she joined the Regional Directorate of Entrepreneurship and Competitiveness as a senior technician, having been appointed to the position of head of division for foreign investment at the end of 2022. Like Brian already mentioned, we, together with some colleagues of ours, had the opportunity to meet with Catarina and other members of her department last November. I think it's fair to say that we were pretty impressed with the robustness of the investment scheme in place, which you'll learn about today, in addition to the very warm welcome with which we were received by her department and indeed by Azorean authorities in general. So I think it's fair to say that we felt there was a lot of dynamism that we saw in the Azores. So we're pretty excited to have Catarina here today. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to our presenter.
Thank you so much, Richard, Brian, Barney, for the invitation. And I thank you again for this opportunity to talk about the Azores and our incentives for foreign investment. And I hope to get your attention, more attention for the Azores and for presenting these huge opportunities that we have for foreign investments. I apologize for some noise because we have a lot happening in these few past days here in this department of the government, and we don't have any available rooms. And so I'm sorry for some noise, backup noise. So I'm here to present to you some incentives that we have for foreign investment. We have this new program called Construir 2030, and this program is divided in four programs. So we have the structuring business, local economic base, young investors, and small business. For structuring business, we have a very specific objective: investment projects of a strategic nature for sustainable economic development with investments of more than 50,000 euros, aimed for strengthening the productivity and competitiveness of companies through the promotion of integrated investment approaches. This is what we called our big projects, okay? The promoters can be commercial companies of any legal nature. So the requirements are: have a minimum financial autonomy of 25% in the pre-project year. They have to start after the application is submitted. So they cannot do any expensive before they submit the application. They have to guarantee sources of funding and be financed by the promoter with a minimum percentage of 25% of equity, and have a maximum implementation period of 3 years or 2 years if the project is more of 2,000 euros. Regarding the incentives, when I talk about the percentages, we only are referring to non-refundable percentages, okay? All the taxes that I'm going to refer of the incentives are non-refundable. There are no loans, okay? It's only non-refundable. Everything that you will receive from the government, you don't have to pay it back, okay? So regarding the incentives for this program, it's non-refundable incentive of 40% for São Miguel and Terceira Island, 45% for Faial and Pico, and the municipalities of Nordeste, Vila Franca do Campo, and Povoação in São Miguel. Why is Vila Franca, Nordeste, and Povoação here with more 5% than in the rest of São Miguel? Because the government looked at these municipalities in São Miguel and believed that they needed a boost of support so they can have more investment, okay? So 45% for Faial, Pico, and Nordeste, Vila Franca do Campo, and Povoação in São Miguel, and 50% for Santa Maria, Graciosa, São Jorge, Flores, and Corvo. So the smallest islands have 50% of support of non-refundable incentive, okay? Other than this tax of support, you can have a bonus of a realization bonus added up to this percentage of 25%, okay? This amount of support cannot be higher than 70%. So the maximum of support that you can have is 70%. That's the maximum of support that the European Union allows us to give, okay? The maximum of incentive to be granted per project is always 7 million on this program, okay? If you have any question regarding this program, please feel free to ask, okay? The payment method regarding this program is, and any other one that we are going to see, but it's always in the form of advance, reimbursement, and final payment. In this program, there's always 5 payments that you can request, okay? The application is online, it's open 24/7, and it's available at the Balcão dos Fundos, okay? Balcão dos Fundos, it's a website that you have to make you have to make a registration, and then you find the application when you make the registration, okay, of your company or yourself. Okay, the application deadline, it says here that it's 31st of December of 2024, but in January of 2025, it opens again until the end of 2025, and then so on until the end of 2027, okay? Okay, so that's regarding the structuring business program. Then we have, that's for the big projects, from 50,000 until 7 million. Then we go to local economic base. That's for the projects that we understand that are going to satisfy the local market and boosting the internal market for the Azores, okay? That's for projects between 50,000 and 4 million, okay? So who can apply? Individual entrepreneurs, commercial companies of any legal nature, cooperatives. I know that you don't have that, but we have cooperativas and complementary groups of companies. So, sorry. Among other conditions, promoters must meet the criteria of small and medium-sized companies, enterprises, have a minimum financial autonomy of 20% on structural business was 25, here is 20%, have to start after the application. All the programs, you can only start making expenses after the application is submitted. It's the same for all the programs, okay? The only expenses that you can make before the application is submitted is with the acquisition of land, acquisition of buildings, and all the preparation of studies directly associated with the project, okay? Those kinds of expenditures you can make before the submission of the application. Otherwise, only after the submission of the application, you can make any expenditure. So you have to have guaranteed sources of funding to be financed by the promoter with the minimum percentage of 20%. On the other one that I just ended, it was 25, on local business, 20%, okay? Have a maximum implementation period of 3 years or 2 years for projects until 200,000 euros, the same as the one before. The support for São Miguel and Terceira, 35%. For Faial, Pico, Nordeste, Vila Franca, and Povoação in São Miguel, it's 40%. And for Santa Maria, Graciosa, São Jorge, Flores, and Corvo, 45%. The bonuses realization is 20% that you can add up, okay? You can ask, Catarina, but how can we have this realization bonus? It's simple. It's goals that you, the promoter, are going to set in the application. You are the ones that are going to tell us, this is my goal. If you can reach that goal, you are going to receive this realization bonus, okay? So we assume since the beginning that you are going to reach that goal. So we're going to pay this realization bonus ahead because we understand that the promoter is going to reach the goal. If you don't, you are going to pay us back this realization goal. That's how it works, okay? So the maximum incentive to be granted per project in the local business is 4 million, okay? The payment method is the same, so in advance, in reimbursement, and final payment, okay? The application works the same way, 24/7, all online in Balcão dos Fundos. Also, it's open until the end of December and will open again in January 2025 and until the end of 2025, opens again in 2026 and so on until the end of 2027, okay? All the legislation is online in the website that I'm going to give you at the end of the presentation. Now, we have the one for young investors, okay? This one is as specific as a here a specific target. So it's for investments between 50,000 and 300,000. So, and it's for young people aged between 18 and 40. The companies has to be 100% detained by young people between 18 and 40 years old, okay? So it has to be small and medium-sized enterprises, and it has to have a minimum percentage of 10% equity. So the first one was 25, the second one was 20, this one is only 10% of equity. Have to have a maximum implementation period of 2 years only, okay? The same works, not submitted any expenditure before the application, it works all the same, okay? Only start the application as the application has been submitted, except for the acquisition of land, buildings, and the preparation of studies. It has to demonstrate through an interview to be carried out by the managing body during the application analysis phase that they have the technical and management skills appropriate to the size and nature of the project. So they have to have an interview with us to demonstrate that they have the skills to manage the company that they are opening for the project, okay? So here they have more incentives. So 45% for São Miguel and Terceira, 50% for Faial, Pico, and Nordeste, Vila Franca do Campo and Povoação, and 55% for Santa Maria, Graciosa, São Jorge, Flores, and Corvo. If they are incubated in one of our business incubators network, they have a plus 5% to these incentives taxes. And they also can add up a realization bonus of 25%. So they really have good support from the government here. Always the payments are in form of advance reimbursement and final payments. The application always online in Balcão dos Fundos and works always the same way, okay, until the end of 2027. And now the small business one. This is what we are getting more applications online, okay? These are for small projects, small and micro projects. We accept projects from 5,000 to 50,000 euros. And it's for almost all the areas and sectors that want to present a small project. It's for individual entrepreneurs, commercial companies of any illegal nature, and it meets it, among other conditions, it has to meet the criteria of a micro or small enterprise. You cannot submit a new application for the same establishment less than 2 years from the same date. And you cannot submit, you have to wait 2 years, a maximum of 2 years between 2 different operations per establishment. Among other conditions also, you also have to start the application after the application, start the business after the application is submitted. Apart from the acquisition of land, buildings, it's always the same. And you only have to guarantee the funding of being financed by the promoter with a minimum of 5% of equity. So 25, 20, 10, and 5% of equity. So for big projects, 25, for local projects, 20, for young investors 10, and for small projects 5% of equity. These projects have a maximum implementation period of 1 year, and very important, this is the program that supports alojamento local, what you call local lodging, what people are really applying for. They have a house, they want to rent for small periods of time. This is the program that they are going to, because this is the only one that supports alojamento local, AL, okay? So the support is 50% for São Miguel and Terceira, 55% for Faial and Pico, and municipalities of Nordeste, Povoação, and Vila Franca do Campo in São Miguel, and 60% for Santa Maria, Graciosa, São Jorge, Flores, and Corvo. And you can add up a realization price of 10% of non-refundable incentives. So here you can get almost the maximum of support permitted by the European Union. The same rules apply. Payments in form of advance, reimbursement, and final payment. There's a difference here. It's only 3 payments. The other ones are 5 payments. Here it's 3. There's another difference here. You don't need a viability study. You don't need, you only need, how you say, pro formas, invoices to make the application to this subsystem. So you don't need to make a big project. It's only explain what you have in mind, write it down in the application, and submit the invoices. So you can understand why this is from the 500 applications that we already have, 400 are to this program. So this is our programs that we have running for foreign investment. I have the economic activities classification here. Usually we don't translate it, but we have translated so you can understand what we support. I will give you, I will write it down in the chat later, our website where we have everything explained and where you can find all this information and where you can find simulators to understand better if you have some project in mind, and my email and my phone number, because you can contact me directly if you have any question about anything. I usually say to my investors that it's a lot of information and everything is so similar that sometimes, and a lot of times, it can be complicated to understand, but it's not. It's very simple if you just lose some time to read it. But when you have somebody explain to you for a particular project, it's easier to understand. When it's presented like this, it can be harder to understand. But when you have a specific project in mind, and when it is explained to you for your specific project, it's easier to understand. So me and my team, we are always available for explaining and trying to find the best way of supporting your project with any question or finding out the best incentive for your project.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Catarina. It was really useful. Can everyone hear me? I'm just making sure that everyone can hear me. Yeah, good. Thank you so much. So as we mentioned, if you would like to ask any questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, feel free to do so now. I see there's already a question of someone asking, will you get a copy of the presentation? You will indeed. So we're going to put a newsletter together in the next couple of weeks that will go to all attendees, that will include a recording of this session, the presentation, contact details for Catarina, links to the website. So it'll all be there, ready to go. Let me just have a look at Renee. Some of the people are being shy today. Usually they come in very fast and the questions, but people are being shy. I've got some on hold anyway. What I'd like to know, Catarina, it's out of my interest, is could you give any examples of, I don't know if you have any examples of any success stories that you've kind of seen in recent times of any investments? I would just like to know what kind of businesses have been setting up.
Of course, well, where we get more investment is in tourism, of course.
Yeah.
We have a lot of hotels, not big, because our reality is not for big hotels, of course, but more sustainable and boutique hotels, niche hotels, because people are looking, and the investors are now investing in small niche and sustainable hotels. So
Sustainable,
that's what that's what we are having more investment. And I believe that in the next year we are having very interesting hotels opening here in the region. So hotels with wine hotels, book hotels, some different hotels with some stories to tell. So I think it's going to be very interesting. High-end hotels, not very big, but with more quality, and so it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I did see that when Brian visited a few months ago. I saw that he went to some sustainable hotel that looked very, very interesting. So let's have a look at some of these questions. So is there a cap for a number of applications that will be accepted under each category, either per year or overall?
There's not. We have this amount of money to spend. We have never, from history, from other past programs, we have never spent it all. So
throw your ideas at the wall.
Feel free to apply.
Okay. So what's the approximate timeline for submitting an application and getting approval?
So in this new legislation, we say that it's 50 days plus 10, so 60 days. 60 how you say weekdays, is it like
okay,
that?
yeah, weekdays, working days,
working days, yes, for having an answer from us. But I have to be true, we are taking more time than 60 days, so I will say 70, 80 days, okay, around that.
Well, there or thereabouts seems quite quick still, I think so. Seems pretty efficient. Okay, let's have a look at so there's a question about loans versus grants. Just maybe to reiterate kind of the idea of the non-refundable incentive.
Yes, it's not a loan. It's not, it's a non-refundable. It's yours to spend. You don't, it's not a loan. Because in the past program, we had a grant and a loan. So yeah, and it was a mix of the two together. So you had non-refundable plus a refundable with no interest rate, and they finished it. So now it's just non-refundable incentive that you receive, then you don't have to pay it back. Simple as that.
Yeah, perfect.
It sounds weird, but it's true.
Yeah. Okay, so generally, I think maybe you've answered this already, but you would apply directly rather than through intermediaries, or if you're kind of an overseas, would you go through a company to help you do the process, or would you go directly to your department?
So you can do it directly, but for the application, okay? For the application, you can do it yourself directly. I don't recommend it, okay? For doing the application, I always advise my investors to work through a consultant. And if you do it through a local consultant, the better, because they are so used to our rules that I believe that it will help them, because there's a huge flaw that everything is in Portuguese. Balcão dos Fundos, it's a national website that has everything together, and there's nothing in English. So yeah, I don't understand. I ask so many times why, because there's a lot of foreign investors, but they don't answer. They don't care. So there's a flaw, and when and for the incentives also, when they ask for so many regional rules, I always advise for contacting a local consultant. For having the first contact with the incentives to know where should I go, which incentive is better for my project, please don't go to the consultant. Don't spend money with that. Come to us, talk to me with my team. We do it pro bono. So
Yes.
please talk to us first, because we are the ones that write down the incentives. So talk to us. We have the knowledge. We will guide you to the right package of incentives, and then you go to a consultant so they can write it down, the project, if you need to write it down, because if it's for small projects, you don't even need to write it down. So
Yeah.
okay.
And do you have a list of these local consultants that you work with, or is it?
So we cannot recommend because we are a public entity, but
Okay.
if you write down on Google consultants in São Miguel, it has a list there. So
okay, perfect.
okay.
Okay. From anonymous, do the projects need to have a commercial purpose, i.e., to create long-term jobs in the Azores beyond construction, or is it the purpose not necessarily relevant?
Well, of course, if it creates jobs, it will give you more punctuation for the project to be approved.
Yeah,
it
sure.
doesn't need necessarily to create jobs, but it will give you, the higher the punctuation, you need 3 points for the project to be approved. That's why when I talked about the incentives, I suggested that you go online, and I will put the website on the chat. There's simulators that you can play with the simulator to see the punctuation of the project. You need a minimum of 3 points for the project to be approved. And when you create jobs, even if it's your own job, it gives you points. Of course, if you create more than one job for the economy of the region, for us, it's great. We want more jobs created, but it's not mandatory. Okay.
Okay. Makes sense. I think we're coming to an end here. I think there's a question about taxing when selling houses and stuff, which might be, I think, out of your remit, and maybe we.
Yes, it's out, but
our
is there a
previous
tax
speaker
when I sell the
actually.
house? Yeah.
Yeah.
I really know.
Our previous speaker.
I think it's
would
more
have
with you
knowledge on that.
guys, actually.
Yeah. So we can pass that question on to our previous speaker, a lawyer that we had that was speaking about this kind of thing. That's it really, that I can see.
One question, Barney, if I can, and
go ahead.
We've this pops up all the time because a lot of individuals who are looking at the Azores don't have a Portuguese passport.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that always pops up is, if we don't have a Portuguese passport, can we participate in these investment incentives? How does that work?
You can. We welcome any passport that wants to invest in the Azores. Is it Portuguese, Chinese, American, Japanese, everyone? The thing is, when you submit the application, you have to say where is the project going to be. And the project is going to be in the Azores. We welcome any passport. Okay? So it doesn't matter where are you coming from, as long as the project is for the region. If the project is going to generate more income for the region, we welcome everyone.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that.
There was a final question about voting, which is like about if you do receive any, or how do you get voting rights, I guess. But if you buy and develop land, is there any link to voting rights in the Azores, or is there probably a
I don't
difference?
think if you, I don't think so. You have to
Yeah,
be
long
registered
term.
long term. Yes.
Yeah, long term resident. Yes. You can't buy a hotel and change the course of the parliament.
I don't think so
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect. Skip
any
one second.
question that you need, any question that you re, remember that you need to ask, just send an email. We receive so many investors from all over the world every day, and we have our website investinazores.com. We have our empresas.azores.gov.pt. I'm going to write it down here so you can have so we have, sorry, so I'm going to write it down here at the chat. So we have investinazores.com. We have empresas.azores.com. All these websites have information about how you can invest, about our financing, because other than this program Construir 2030, we have other small incentives that may be small for us to be talking right now, but can be interesting for you or someone that you may know that are here in the Azores. So if you
Yep.
have any questions, let me know.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely fantastic. I think, as I mentioned before, this is being recorded, so this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. We'll share it in our newsletter in a couple of weeks, along with Catarina's contact details, all the websites, this presentation that was just given, this PowerPoint. So all the information will be in there. Does anyone else have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to thank Catarina. Thank you again. It was wonderful seeing you once again. And I think this little journey is really intriguing, and we are certainly getting more and more interest, lots of questions, and we appreciate that you are willing to assist to respond to some of the questions around the Azores and the investment incentives. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you. And thank you to all the attendees. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll hope to do more webinars in the future, I think. So
Yes.
stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.